What if the unluckiest person in the world was actually untouchable? Here is what you need to know before we start. In this world, luck is a number. You are born with it. It is stamped on your soul. Everyone can see it. And it controls everything. Whether your crops grow, whether your spells land, whether the universe is working with you or against you every single day of your life. Most people have a luck number between 50 and 150. Normal life. Things go okay. The nobility, the heroes, the powerful, they sit at 500, 600, sometimes higher. Everything goes right for them. Always. Coins land their way. Enemies trip at the wrong moment. The universe is simply on their side. And then there is our main character, Rael Ashford. His luck number, -999. Now here is the part that matters. The part that changes everything. His luck is so far below zero that it stopped working like normal bad luck a long time ago. It does not make bad things happen to him. It makes bad things happen to whoever tries to harm him. Multiplied by 999. Every time. Without exception. Without mercy. You curse him, the curse comes back at you. 999 times worse. You attack him, the attack finds its way back to you. 999 times worse. You try to cheat him, steal from him, threaten him, or simply put your hands on him in anger. The universe takes note. And it sends your bill back. Immediately. With interest you cannot afford. The problem is, nobody knows this yet. Not even Rael. Not at the beginning. The number the fate registry had never recorded in 400 years of record keeping. The number that caused the fate reading machine to display an error code the first time, a question mark the second time, and the correct number the third time. At which point 2 of the 3 senior fate readers in the room immediately resigned, and the third sat down on the floor and did not speak for 40 minutes. The number that Rael's father, a quiet man, a farmer with a modest luck number of 89 who had never expected much from the universe and had generally received exactly that, had framed on the wall of their small house. Not as a celebration. Not as a curiosity. As a warning. Be careful around the boy. Be very, very careful. He does not yet know why that warning is so much more important than anyone realizes. We open on Rael at age 6. He is sitting at a low wooden desk in the village schoolroom, attempting to complete the morning writing lesson. The task is simple. Copy 3 sentences from the board using ink and a small reed pen. Every child in the village does this every morning. It takes most of them about 10 minutes. It is, by any standard measure, the least dangerous activity a 6-year-old can engage in. Rael picks up the ink bottle to fill his well. The bottle slips. Not in a small way. Not in the way where you grab it again before anything happens. The bottle slips, bounces off the edge of the desk, rolls across the floor with the particular unstoppable momentum of an object that has decided it has somewhere to be, shoots through the gap under the door, travels down the hall, descends the 3 steps outside the schoolroom entrance at impressive speed, crosses the courtyard, and strikes the left boot of the visiting regional magistrate who had arrived that morning for the annual village inspection and had chosen that exact moment to walk toward the schoolroom to observe the morning lesson. The ink, dark blue, fresh, a full bottle, explodes across the magistrate's boot, his robe, and the lower section of his official inspection documents. The magistrate stands very still. He looks down at his boot. He looks at the ink spreading across his official documents. He looks up at the schoolroom door. The door opens. Rael stands in it. "I'm sorry," says Rael. "That was my fault. This is Tuesday." On Wednesday, Rael attempts to help his mother carry firewood from the storage shed. The stack is perfectly balanced and has been sitting without incident for 2 weeks. The moment Rael touches the first log, the entire stack shifts. 3 logs roll into the path of the village carpenter, who trips, grabs the fence post nearest him for balance, pulls the fence post out of the ground because it was due for replacement anyway, and falls into the neighbor's vegetable patch. The neighbor, who had been watering her vegetables at that exact moment, redirects her watering can in surprise and soaks the carpenter completely. Rael stands next to the collapsed wood stack holding 1 log. "I'm sorry," he says to the carpenter. "I'm sorry," he says to the neighbor. "I'm sorry," he says to the fence post, because at this point it seems like the right thing to do. On Thursday, a bird flies into the side of his head. Not a small bird. A large crow, moving at full speed, strikes him directly above his left ear with the impact of something that has clearly misjudged a landing attempt so catastrophically that misjudgment seems like the wrong word. The impact knocks Rael sideways into a market stall. The stall collapses. The collapse takes out the rope connecting two neighboring stall canopies. Both canopies fall. A third stall, connected to the second by a shared support post, leans dangerously and then tips its entire display of clay pots into the road. A passing cart horse shies at the noise and overturns the cart. The cart was carrying cabbages. The road is briefly full of cabbages. Rael sits on the ground among the debris with the crow, which is now sitting on his knee and looking at him with the alert expression of a bird that has not learned anything from this experience. "I'm sorry," Rael says. To the stall owners. To the cart driver. To the road in general. On Friday it rains. Specifically, it rains on Rael. Not the street around him. Not the houses nearby. Not the other children walking to school. Not the market district 50 feet away that is enjoying a perfectly pleasant dry morning. Just Rael. For 6 hours. He stands in it for a while, trying to understand the physics of the situation. Then he goes home, changes into dry clothes, goes back outside, and gets rained on again. His mother watches from the window. She has the expression of a woman who loves her child completely and has also made a very thorough peace with her circumstances. His father reads the fate number on the wall. -999. He nods. He goes back to his book. By age 8, Rael has developed what the village, in quiet, affectionate, slightly nervous consensus, calls simply the effect. It is the understanding, absorbed gradually into collective knowledge the way all important village knowledge is absorbed, that things go wrong near Rael Ashford. Not because of anything he does. Not out of carelessness or malice or incompetence. Simply because the universe near Rael has decided that probability is more of a suggestion than a rule. The baker has learned to move his display rolls inside when Rael walks past. Not because Rael has ever intentionally damaged a display roll, but because display rolls near Rael have a way of rolling off their surface into the road, into puddles, into the paths of dogs. The blacksmith has learned that Rael should not watch him work, because metal near Rael behaves unpredictably. Tools fall in unexpected directions. Sparks go places sparks should not go. The anvil once moved 6 inches to the left for no discernible reason, while Rael was standing nearby. The blacksmith still has not told anyone about the anvil. The village's one elderly physician has learned, simply, not to stand near open windows when Rael is outside. He has learned this through a series of educational experiences involving objects that enter through windows at unexpected angles. And Rael has learned to navigate all of this with the particular skill that only comes from 17 years of practice. He walks carefully. He stands away from things that can fall. He never runs. He checks surfaces before touching them. He carries his apologies ready in his front pocket, polished and immediate, delivered before the full scope of any given situation has registered in the mind of the affected party. He is very good at apologizing. The secret, he has discovered, is to never be defensive about it. No excuses. No explanations. Just clear-eyed acknowledgement and the genuine calm of someone who has accepted, completely, that the universe has a particular relationship with him that other people do not share. "I'm sorry about your cart. I'm sorry about your roof. I'm sorry about your entire morning." People who receive these apologies find themselves, almost without exception, oddly disarmed. You cannot sustain anger at someone who is already completely, serenely, ahead of you in understanding the situation. His teachers call him strange, thoughtful, surprisingly difficult to rattle. His classmates call him the one you don't stand next to during outdoor activities. And Mira Calloway, who runs the herb stall with her grandmother at the eastern edge of the market, who has known Rael since they were 4 years old, who is the only person in the village who has looked at his fate number without her expression doing something unfortunate, calls him her best friend. Mira had looked at his number when they were 6. Looked at it for a long time. And then said, "That is the most unusual number I have ever seen. I wonder what it is supposed to do. Not what it means. Not what it causes. What it is supposed to do." Rael had thought about that sentence for a week. He is still thinking about it. By age 10, Rael has found the archive. The village archive is a small stone building at the edge of the administrative district, maintained by an elderly archivist named Tobin who is 80 years old and has the comfortable indifference to personal risk that comes from having very little left to lose. He lets Rael come in and read whenever he wants. His only condition is that Rael sits at the table in the middle of the room, away from the shelves. Because Rael near shelves causes books to fall. Tobin does not like picking books up off the floor. Rael reads everything. Not because he has a plan, because reading is the one thing he can do without incident. Words on a page do not fall over or break or get rained on. One Tuesday in early autumn, Tobin brings him a stack of very old registry documents covering the history of the fate number system. Dry material. Rael reads it anyway. He reads everything. Deep inside one of the documents, on a page that has not been opened in about 100 years, based on how stiff the spine is, Rael finds a single paragraph. It says, in plain language, this: if a fate number ever falls far enough below zero, far enough that the universe's luck system simply cannot process it, the number stops making bad things happen to its bearer. Instead, it starts sending bad things back to whoever causes them. The worse the action directed at the bearer, the worse what comes back. And it does not come back at equal strength. It comes back multiplied. Rael reads this once, then again, then a third time very slowly. He thinks about the ink bottle at age 6, the firewood at age 7, every small disaster that has happened around him his entire life. And then he thinks about something he has never said out loud because it seemed too specific to mention. The disasters almost never happened to him directly. They happened to the environment, to objects, to the people nearby. He has been rained on, hit by a crow, sat in mud, but he has never been seriously hurt. Not once. Not in 10 years of being the unluckiest person in recorded history. He puts the document down. He picks it up. He reads the paragraph one more time. Tobin, he says. Says Tobin. Has anyone ever had a fate number below zero before? A pause. Not in any record I've seen, says Tobin. Why? Just curious, says Rael. He goes home for dinner. He is very quiet at the table. His mother notices. She always notices. What are you thinking about? She asks. The archive, says Rael. She accepts this. She does not notice that he is smiling. Barely. Just at the corners. Because he is starting to understand something. His luck is not bad. It has never been bad. It has been waiting. By age 12, Rael has spent 2 years quietly watching and writing everything down in a small notebook he keeps under the loose board in his floor. What the notebook says after 2 years is simple. When random bad luck happens near him, things fall, things break, whether misbehaves, it happens to the environment. To objects. Rarely directly to him. But when someone deliberately hurts him, pushes him, steals from him, says something cruel on purpose, something bad happens to that person. Specifically. Almost immediately. And slightly worse than what they did. The boy who pushed him into a puddle twisted his ankle on the way home. The merchant who shortchanged him discovered his own coin pouch had a hole in it and lost twice the amount he'd stolen by the end of the afternoon. The dog that bit him ran directly into a fence post. Every single time. Without exception. Proportional. Slightly worse. Like the universe is keeping score and adding 10% interest. At the bottom of the notebook, after 2 years, Rael writes his conclusion in 4 lines. My luck is not bad. My luck is a mirror. Whoever throws something at it gets it back. With interest. He closes the notebook. He puts it under the board. He does not yet know how much interest. He is about to find out. He discovers the multiplier by accident at age 13. There is a boy in the village named Court. 15 years old, large, the son of a minor merchant with a fate number of 280, which he interprets, as some people with moderately good luck do, as a personal mandate from the universe to occupy more space than he is entitled to. Court has been making Rael's life uncomfortable since they were 8. Nothing dramatic. The quiet, grinding cruelty of someone who has identified a safe target and returns to it with the consistency of habit. Stolen lunches. Knocked over book stacks. Shoulder checks in narrow spaces. Small acts. Calculated. Deniable. Rael has documented these in his notebook too, under a separate heading. He has also noted, each time, what happened to Court afterward. The ankle twist. A bad cold that lasted 2 weeks after the shoulder check. A dropped lunch of his own the day after he took Rael's. Proportional. Consistent. Slightly worse each time, which Rael suspects relates to intent. The more deliberate the harm, the larger the return. On a particular afternoon in early autumn, Court escalates. He has acquired, from a traveling merchant who sells low-grade magical goods, a curse token. A cheap piece of hedge magic. The kind that gives the target a week of minor misfortune. Broken laces, stubbed toes, spilled drinks, small irritations stacked one on top of another. It costs about the same as a decent meal and is the magical equivalent of a mean-spirited prank. He finds Rael walking home from Myra's herb stall with a bundle of dried lavender for his mother. He waits until Rael's back is turned. He activates the token and throws it. It hits the back of Rael's head. There is a flash of dull gray light. Rael feels it, a slight cold sensation at the base of his skull, gone almost immediately. He turns around. Court is already smiling. The smile is at its widest, most satisfied point. And then the universe opens its accounting ledger. Incoming, minor misfortune curse token. Strength value, approximately 1 unit of bad luck, distributed over 7 days. Bearer's fate number, -999. Inverted resonance multiplier, 999. Source of hostile intent, court. Output, 999 units of misfortune, redirected, immediate delivery. What happens to Court in the next 6 seconds? His bootlace, his left one, which he had noticed was fraying that morning but had not replaced, snaps at the exact moment his weight is fully committed to his left foot during a step. The foot slides. He stumbles forward. The stumble sends him into the side of a market cart that has been sitting perfectly still for 2 hours. The cart's wheel, which has a crack in its axle pin that the cart owner has been meaning to fix for 3 weeks, chooses this moment to fail. The cart tilts. A crate of river melons slides off the tilting surface and strikes a rope strung between 2 market posts. The rope was holding a merchant's sign. The sign swings down on its hinge and connects with a water barrel sitting on a platform nearby. The barrel rolls off the platform. The barrel strikes Court's shin at moderate speed. Court sits down in the middle of the market road with the sudden, total commitment of someone whose legs have simply decided they are done. A cart horse passing at that exact moment, startled by the chain of sounds, sneezes. Directly, onto Court's face. At close range. 6 seconds. Court sits in the road surrounded by rolling melons, one boot half off, covered in horse mucus, looking at Rael with an expression that is working through disbelief, through pain, through dawning horrified understanding, and arriving somewhere that has no name but is adjacent to the realization that he has made a significant error. Rael looks at the scene. He does the math in his head. 1 curse token, strength value 1, times 999. He looks at Court. He looks at the melons. He looks at the horse, which has moved on and appears unconcerned. "Are you all right?" he asks. Court does not answer. Rael picks up his lavender, which had fallen from his hand during the turn, and walks home. He is quiet over dinner. He is thinking about the number. 999 times. He picks up his notebook. He writes 1 new line at the bottom of the confirmed returns section. Multiplier confirmed. 999x on directed magical attack. He puts the notebook down. He picks up his spoon. His mother is watching him from across the table. "Something happened today," she says. It is not a question. "Yes," says Rael. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," says Rael. "I'm always fine." He says it simply, without drama. And for the first time in his life, his mother hears it not as reassurance, but as fact. He spends the next 3 months testing systematically. He identifies the training ground on the edge of the village where the young fighters practice basic curse work. Training curses. Weak, standardized, used for sparring and reflex practice. The fighters throw them at each other constantly. It is how they develop both accuracy and the reflexes needed to dodge incoming magic. Rael starts walking past the training ground. Slowly, regularly. At times when the session is in full swing and nobody is paying particular attention to a village boy walking by. He lets them hit him. Not obviously. Not by standing in the way and inviting it. The fighters sometimes throw wide. Sometimes a training curse drifts. Rael positions himself in the drift zones and lets probability handle the rest. The results are precise. The weakness curse. The thrower's grip goes weak for 20 minutes. Drops their practice sword. Blames it on fatigue. The slow curse. The thrower moves at half speed for an afternoon. Tells their training partner they think they're coming down with something. The distraction curse. The thrower finds themselves completely unable to focus for an hour. Their training partner wins every exchange. They cannot explain why. None of them connect it to Rael. Rael is the bad luck boy. When things go wrong near him, people assume it is his negative fate bleeding into the environment. His ambient bad luck. His general catastrophic relationship with the universe. They have never considered the possibility that what they are seeing is not radiation. It is reflection. Rael keeps his notebook updated. By the end of the 3 months, he has 47 data points. The pattern is consistent. The multiplier is consistent. The direction is consistent. External hostile force directed at bearer, reflected at source, multiplied by 999. He closes the notebook. He puts it under the loose board in his floor. He goes to sleep. And in the morning he begins to think, for the first time seriously, about what you can do with a mirror that multiplies everything it reflects, when you live in a world that has spent your entire life throwing things at you. The answer, it turns out, is quite a lot. But first, there is the matter of the tax assessor. Commissioner Draven arrives in the village when Rael is 16. He is a regional tax assessor, the kind of official who treats a routine administrative route through small villages as an opportunity to adjust assessments upward by amounts just small enough to be technically deniable and just large enough to produce meaningful personal profit. He has a fate number of 380, a face like a ledger, shoes that cost more than most village families spend on food in a month. He goes through the village methodically, house by house, farm by farm. His assessments are precise, official-looking, and inflated by between 30 and 50% above the legal rate. He arrives at the Ashford house on the 3rd day. Rael's mother answers the door. She is a woman who has learned, through long practice, to be calm in the face of things she cannot change. She listens to Draven's assessment. She looks at the number. She reaches for the pen. Rael puts his hand on the document. Draven looks at him, reads his fate number. The particular expression that crosses his face is one Rael has seen many times. The expression of someone who has determined that they are dealing with the lowest value person in the room, and who is now operating accordingly. The assessment is final, Draven says pleasantly. Sign. Commissioner, says Rael very quietly. I want to help you. Please do not do this. Draven smiles the smile of a man who has never been stopped by anyone who looked like Rael. He reaches out and takes the pen from Rael's hand. Contact. Deliberate. Contemptuous. The physical manifestation of power asserting itself over powerlessness. The universe opens its accounting books. It does not hurry. It never hurries. Over the next 15 minutes, Commissioner Draven's horse, which he had left tethered at the post outside, snaps its lead rope and walks calmly away down the village road. His document satchel's shoulder strap breaks, dropping his files into the mud. A sudden gust of wind takes 4 documents down the road before he can retrieve them. A crow lands on his shoulder and refuses to leave regardless of how many times he shoos it. He trips over a flat section of road. He drops his official seal, the one that validates every assessment document, into the open well in the Ashford courtyard. He stands at the edge of the well, looking down at his seal sitting in 3 feet of water at the bottom. Behind him, Rael is still in the doorway. I told you, says Rael with genuine sympathy. Draven borrows a bucket from Rael's mother, who provides it with a completely neutral expression, and retrieves his seal. He leaves the village, without collecting any taxes at all. His paperwork for the following 3 months develops persistent clerical errors requiring resubmission. His supervisor begins asking questions. His fate number, which had protected him for 20 years of administrative fraud, is a rounding error compared to what he ran into in the Ashford courtyard. Rael's mother watches the commissioner leave from the doorway. She is quiet for a long moment. What did you do? She asks. Nothing, says Rael. I stood there. Rael. I warned him. He didn't listen. The universe agreed with me. She looks at him for a long time. Your father is going to want to hear about this, she says. I know, says Rael. I've been thinking about how to explain it. Word travels through the village the way significant things always travel through small communities. Not announced, not declared, simply absorbed into the background understanding of everyone who lives there. Do not harm the Ashford boy. Not because he retaliates. Not because he threatens. Not because he has power in any form that the village's social structure recognizes or respects. Simply because something always happens. Court crosses the road now when he sees Rael coming. He does it automatically, without thinking, the way you automatically avoid a step you know is uneven. The young fighters at the training ground have quietly stopped throwing curses in Rael's direction during practice. Nobody organized this. Nobody announced it. It just stopped happening. The merchants in the market, almost without exception, charge Rael the correct price for things. Not out of affection. Not out of respect for his fate number, which they consider unfortunate at best and cosmically offensive at worst. simply because 3 separate merchants have overcharged him in the past 2 years, and all 3 of them have had deeply inconvenient weeks afterward. And at some point the village's commercial instinct concludes that the margins are not worth it. Mira notices all of this. She has been noticing it for years. She is sitting across from Rael at her grandmother's herb stall one afternoon when she says, "You figured it out, didn't you?" "It is not a question." "I have a theory," says Rael. "You have been collecting data for 3 years," says Mira. "At what point does a theory become a conclusion?" "When the sample size is large enough. You have 47 documented incidents." He looks at her. "How do you know about the notebook?" "I am your best friend," she says. "I notice things." He is quiet for a moment. She reaches under the counter and produces a small, worn book. Old cover, careful binding. She slides it across to him. "My grandmother found this in the archive storage when they were reorganizing last month. The shelf number is on the inside cover. She said she thought you should have it." Rael looks at the cover. A very old book, 300 years old. Written by a fate reader named Aldous Verne, who had found one ancient record of a number like Rael's and spent 40 years writing about what it would mean if it ever appeared again. He opens it. He reads it that afternoon. He reads it again that evening. He reads it a third time in the morning. The first half confirms everything his notebook already told him. The reflection. The multiplier. The way deliberate harm comes back while random bad luck just bleeds into the environment around him. The second half says something new. Something simple, stated plainly by a man who spent 40 years thinking about it. It says, Rael does not need to wait. The reflection does not only happen when someone throws something at him from a distance. The field extends outward from him. The closer he gets to someone who has been causing harm, not just someone who threw one curse, but someone who has built their entire life around hurting people below them, the worse their luck becomes. Every wrong thing they have ever done starts to surface. Old errors, hidden debts, buried mistakes. The universe, in close proximity to Rael, begins collecting on accounts that have been overdue for years. He does not need to wait for people to attack him. He can walk toward them. And the walking is enough. The last line of the book reads, "He is not a weapon. He is a consequence. And the powerful fear consequences more than any sword, because a sword can be bought or broken or turned. A consequence simply arrives." Rael sets the book down. He thinks about Commissioner Draven, who left the village with nothing, his documents ruined, his seal in a well, 20 years of the same fraud on every road in the region. He thinks about all the other Dravans. He thinks about walking toward them instead of waiting. "I need to think," he tells Mira. "I know," she says. "About something bigger than the village." "I know," she says. She pours him tea. He thinks. The event that moves Rael from thinking to acting arrives when he is 17. House Varent is the largest landholding noble family in the region. Their fate number average across the entire bloodline is 450. They have held their lands for 200 years through a combination of genuine ability, strategic marriages, and the particular kind of institutional momentum that comes from being powerful long enough that everyone around you has forgotten how to imagine a world where you aren't. They have decided to acquire Rael's village. Not buy it, not offer for it. Acquire it, in the manner that powerful families have always acquired things, through a sustained campaign of legal pressure, fabricated debt documentation, manufactured tax arrears, and the quiet understanding that every relevant official in the region owes House Varent something and has no desire to find out what happens when they stop owing it. The acquisition notice is delivered by a thin, precise man named Aldrich, who speaks in the careful language of someone who has delivered these notices to many villages and has a rehearsed answer for every possible objection. The village has 30 days to produce documentation confirming their land rights are clean. The documentation exists. It is in the regional archive, 3 days' travel away. Aldrich notes, in passing, that the roads to the regional archive are currently experiencing difficulties. Bandit activity. Very unfortunate. Completely beyond House Varent's control, of course. The village council meets. They discuss for 2 hours. They reach the conclusion that they are likely to lose. Rael sits in the back of the meeting. He listens to everything. He reads the faces of the council members, the resignation, the calculation, the quiet anger that has nowhere to go because anger without power is just weather. He thinks about the book. He thinks about what it said, about walking toward people instead of waiting. After the meeting ends and the council members file out, Mira, who has been sitting next to him, says, "You have decided something." "Yes," says Rael. What? I am going to House Varent. A pause. Alone? Yes. To do what? To walk, says Rael. And to give them one chance to stop. Before the universe starts doing what it does. Mira looks at him for a long moment. You've been building to this, she says. For a long time, says Rael. She reaches under the counter of her grandmother's herb stall. She produces a travel bag. Already packed. Provisions for 4 days. Grandmother said to pack it yesterday, she says. She said you'd decide tonight. Rael takes the bag. Your grandmother is extraordinary, he says. She has a fate number of 12, says Mira. She has learned to read patterns very carefully. He arrives at House Varent's regional estate on the 3rd day. He walks through the front gate because the guards, looking at a teenage boy in village clothes with a travel pack, genuinely cannot process the threat assessment and default to letting him through while they figure out what to do. Lord Varent receives him in the main hall. He is 50 broad, the product of 2 centuries of family confidence. Fate number 487. He looks at Rael the way he looks at most things that appear in his house without an appointment, as a minor administrative inconvenience. You've come to negotiate, he says. No, says Rael. I've come to give you an opportunity to stop what you're doing to my village. It's the only one you'll get. Lord Varent almost smiles. Your fate number is -999, he says. You have walked into my estate alone. You are giving me warnings. Yes, says Rael. Why should I take warnings from you? Because, says Rael, I am a fair person. And what happens after this conversation is entirely your own doing. I want that established clearly. Lord Varent stands. He points at Rael. He tells his guards to remove the boy. Physically. Now. For guards approach. The accounting happens. The first guard's boot catches on smooth stone, and he goes down hard. The second grabs Rael's arm, and his hand immediately cramps with a severity that makes him release it and step back, making a sound that is not quite a word. The third and fourth guards collide, trying to navigate around the first, and the collision knocks a suit of ceremonial armor that has stood unmoved in that hall for 60 years. The armor falls with a sound like a small avalanche. A candle tips in the disturbance. The candle catches the edge of a tapestry. The tapestry begins to smoke. A guard runs in with water. Lord Varent stands in his hall watching chaos move through it like a wave, and when the wave has passed and the armor has been propped back up and the tapestry has been soaked and the guards have retreated, Rael is standing exactly where he was. Completely untouched. Expression unchanged. I did warn you, says Rael. He turns and walks out. What follows over the next 2 weeks is the administrative dissolution of House Varent's acquisition campaign. Rael does not hide. He does not threaten. He does not make demands to officials or write letters to authorities or organize resistance. He walks. He walks to the office of Lord Varent's chief solicitor and sits in the waiting room. During the 2 hours he sits there, 3 critical acquisition documents develop ink deterioration and become illegible. The solicitor's official seal is found to have a crack that voids everything stamped in the previous month. A junior clerk, panicking, files the village acquisition paperwork under the wrong case number. It takes 3 weeks to find it. He walks to the regional tax office and stands outside for 40 minutes. During those 40 minutes, the lead official notices a 20-year-old irregularity in House Varent's filings that he has somehow never caught before. He is legally required to flag it. An investigation opens. He walks to the inn where Aldrich is staying and knocks on the door. Aldrich opens it. He is a smart man. He has been watching. He has been making connections. You've been doing this deliberately, Aldrich says. I've been walking, says Rael. I'm legally permitted to walk. What do you want? The bandits on the road to the regional archive to be gone by morning. A silence. They'll be gone, says Aldrich. I know, says Rael. One way or another. The bandits are gone by morning. The village's documentation is retrieved. The acquisition collapses. House Varent withdraws its claim, citing administrative complications. The village is safe. Rael comes home. He sits at Myra's stall. Done, she asks. With Varent, he says. There are others. I know, she says. She pours him tea. He drinks it. Nothing spills. Word travels faster than Rael does. Within 6 weeks, word has reached the capital. Not through official channels. Not through newspapers or government reports. Through the network of quiet communication that connects every small community in the kingdom to every other small community. The merchants, the travelers, the seasonal workers, the people who carry news the way they carry everything else, in their pockets, from place to place, without being asked. The word is simple. There is a boy. He does not fight. He does not threaten. He walks. And trouble follows whoever troubles him, multiplied, immediate, and precise. In the capital, this word reaches a woman named Lady Calmere. She is the head of a noble house of moderate size and considerable administrative influence. Fate number 510. She manages, among other things, the policy framework that governs taxation rates in the outer regions. She files the word about Rael under. Interesting. Possibly relevant. Monitor. 3 months later, Rael walks through the capital gate. He does not go to the palace. He does not go to any noble house. He goes to the market district. He walks through the poorest sections. He talks to people. He listens. He maps, over 4 days, the network of harm. The specific shape of who is taking what from whom, where the pressure originates, which officials are corrupt by design, and which ones by necessity. On the 5th day, he walks to Lady Calmere's gate and asks to see her. He is told to leave. He sits down on the public steps outside the gate. He waits. Lady Calmere comes to the gate herself after 2 hours. She looks at him for a long time. "Come in," she says. She pours tea. Nothing spills. She notices. "You want the outer village taxation corrected," she says. "Yes," says Rael. "A formal audit of the 12 great houses." "Yes." "And the return of 6 years of excess collected funds." "Yes." She looks at her tea. Then at him. "You know I cannot deliver that alone," she says. "No," says Rael. "But you can help me walk toward the people who can. And if I help you, then you are on the correct side of what is coming, which is, I think, where you would prefer to be." She studies him for a long time. She is smart enough to have investigated Varant. Smart enough to understand that what happened there was not coincidence or bad luck or weather. "All right," she says. "I'll help." They work together for 3 months. Lady Calmere provides structure, contacts, knowledge of the system. Rael provides proximity. He attends meetings he is not invited to. He sits in public spaces near offices. He walks slowly through districts where decisions about outer village policy are made. He does nothing illegal. He says nothing threatening. He breaks no laws and makes no demands that are not already required by existing law. He simply walks. And the accounting happens. A treasury official who has been skimming tax funds for 11 years finds his private ledgers accidentally filed as a public document by a confused clerk. A noble house using fabricated legal pressure to seize farmland finds 3 key property documents contain errors and notary. Embarrassed about a long-ago mistake, suddenly comes forward to correct. The Crown's chief tax assessor, the architect of the outer village rate policy, develops administrative misfortunes so consistent and so precisely timed that his own staff begins treating him with the careful deference usually reserved for people who have become unpredictable. Investigations open. Audits begin. Rael, during all of this, is usually in a park nearby, reading Aldous Verne's treatise for the 15th time, eating a piece of bread. The king summons him on the 91st day. The palace is enormous. The throne room is designed to make visitors feel small. Rael walks through it and feels exactly the same size he always feels, which is the size of someone who has walked from a village 3 days away and is comfortable in his own proportions. The king is old. Fate number 612. The luckiest person in the kingdom. He looks at Rael for a long time. -999, he says. "Yes, your majesty. You've caused 12 investigations for audits and the resignation of my chief tax assessor." "Your Majesty's officials caused those things," Rael says. "Over many years. I simply walked nearby. My advisors say I should have you removed from the capital. Some of them believe that." Rael agrees. "What would happen if I ordered it?" Rael considers the question carefully. "Your guards would attempt it. I genuinely do not know exactly what would follow. But I know the direction it would go. And I believe your Majesty is intelligent enough to see the direction as well." A long silence. The king looks at the gold on his pillars, the tapestries on his walls, the ceiling of the throne room, renovated 3 years ago with outer village tax funds. He looks back at Rael. "What do you want?" Rael tells him. Reduced taxation. Return of excess funds. Formal audit of all 12 great houses. And one more thing. A review of the fate number system, says Rael. The assumption that high numbers deserve more and low numbers deserve less. That assumption is built into every law, every tax policy, every social structure in this kingdom. And it is wrong. The king stares at him. You are 17 years old, he says. Yes. And you walked here alone from a village. Yes. Because people were being treated unfairly. Yes, your majesty. Another long silence. The king looks at him, this boy in village clothes, no title, no power, no number that the system considers worth anything, and thinks about the 12 investigations, the 4 audits, the 100 small disasters that have followed the people who tried to stop him. Come back tomorrow, the king says. With Lady Calmere. We will talk. It takes 2 years. 2 years of meetings and legal arguments and noble houses pushing back and bureaucratic battles fought in conference rooms across the capital. But it happens. The taxation rate is corrected. The excess, 6 years of it, is returned to the outer regions in the form of infrastructure. Roads, wells, medical stations, schools. The fate number laws are not abolished overnight. Too much, too fast, would collapse the system before anything better could be built. But the specific laws that make low fate numbers legally second class, the laws that Rael has spent his whole life underneath, are reviewed, quietly revised, dismantled, one by one, over the following decade. Rael is offered a title. He declines. He is offered land. He declines. He is offered a reassessment, a new formal fate number reading, conducted by the most senior fate readers in the kingdom, in the hope that perhaps the original reading was an error. They conduct the reading 3 times. -999. -999. -999. The senior fate reader looks at him with the expression of someone who has just confirmed something they were hoping was a mistake. It is consistent, she says. It always is, says Rael. He goes home. The road is better than it was. The village well has been repaired. The market has a new covered section. The magistrate who oversees tax collection in the region is new and charges the legal rate. Mira is at her grandmother's herb stall. He sits down across from her. How did it go? She asks. Slowly, he says. Then all at once. She pushes a cup of tea across the counter. Nothing spills. He picks it up. They sit in the afternoon light for a long time without talking. The market moves around them. A cart horse clops past. A merchant calls his prices. Are you done? Mira asks eventually. Rael thinks about the 12 other regions he heard about in the capital. The same patterns in different administrative languages. The same structures wearing different names. The same harm distributed across the kingdom by 100 different hands. All of them believing that distance makes consequences impossible. No, he says. She nods. She reaches under the counter. She produces another travel bag. Grandmother said, she begins. I know, says Rael. He takes the bag. He stands up. He looks at the village, at the well, at the market, at the road, at everything that is slightly better than it was. And he feels something that is not quite pride and not quite satisfaction, but is somewhere between the two, in the quiet place where a person stands when they have done what they came to do and understand that what they came to do was never the whole of it. He turns toward the road. He walks. Rael Ashford. Fate number, -999. The unluckiest person in the kingdom. The one person that nobody, not a bully with a curse token, not a noble with 400 years of power, not a king with the highest luck number in recorded history, could afford to cross. Not because he was powerful, not because he was protected, not because the universe loved him, but because the universe had given him something better than good luck. It had given him a mirror, and in a world full of people who had spent centuries convincing themselves that what they did to others had no consequences. He held it up, and walked closer, and waited, and the universe, patient as always, did the rest. And that is the complete story of Rael Ashford, the boy with the worst luck in history, who turned out to be the one person in the kingdom nobody could afford to touch. If you made it to the end of this one, you are an absolute legend. Every minute of this one was worth it, and I genuinely appreciate you being here. Now, the vote for the next video. 2 options. First, a boy who dies every time he falls asleep, and wakes up having absorbed the ability of whatever killed him in his dreams. He has died 712 times. He has never slept more than 4 hours in his life. And he has never been more dangerous. Second, a world where power is determined by how much you eat. Everyone gorges themselves constantly. The boy who ate almost nothing for 10 years is considered the weakest person alive. He just took his first real bite. And the number that appeared above his head broke the measurement system. Drop your vote in the comments right now. The top vote becomes the next video. And if you are new here, subscribe, because I refuse to make anything that is not worth your time. See you in the next one.